welcome to what was once known as the 411 Music Zone podcast, now rebranded the Metal Hammer of Doom podcast. Yes, we done stole Robert Cooper's title of his weekly column from the 411 Music Zone, and we have rebranded this podcast the Metal Hammer of Doom because we pretty much only cover metal, and why not? You're not going to get any Yeezus or whatever the hell the name of that Kanye West album on this podcast. No sirree, Bob. I am your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, God help us all, tonight we're going to review an album by a band that invented heavy metal, really. That band is Black Sabbath, and we are going to review their new album, 13. So we got an extra large cast here tonight. Normally it's just me and the Coop, who I'll bring out shortly, but we also have another guest here from 401 Mania, Mr. Sean Garmer, we'll bring out in just a moment, to look at this album in its entirety, and they're going to seek to convince me that it is not as bad as I thought it was. So without further ado, here he is, folks. The author of the Metal Hammer of Doom himself, one of the three beards, Mr. Robert Cooper. How do you do?
I do dandily. Yeah, I made it back to the phone just as the music was going. Lucky for me.
Yeah, is everything all right down there? Do you need assistance of some sort?
No, I got called. I had to set the phone down because my parents needed me to do something. So I was pacing around like, damn it.
Did they say, take out the trash, tidy your room, and did they tell you that a rock was out of the question?
I just told them I wanted a Pepsi, and she wouldn't give it to me. All I wanted was a Pepsi.
Did they also, now listen, did they tell you to take out the papers in the trash?
No.
Or you won't get no spending cash?
No, I didn't get any.
And did you talk back? That's what the readers want to know. Did you talk back?
No, I didn't. I just took my lashing like a good dog.
Fun time, Robert Cooper. Where you at tonight, man? Here I am. I throw all this golden comedy at you. You know, I shower you with all of this I shower you with all this golden comedy. and you're.
What are you referencing?
Well, let's see. I reference.
Yak, don't come back, man.
Folks, that sound you're hearing of frustration is, of course, Sean Garmer from 401mania.com Music Zone.
Yakety yak. God, I didn't expect yakety yak on this podcast. Sweet Christ.
But I also referenced Def Leppard. Where are we at on that one?
I don't like Def Leppard very much.
Well, that's where you're wrong, sir. That's it. We're not doing 13 anymore. We're going to go back and do a career retrospective of Def Leppard. Folks, let's talk about Pyromania.
Please sign me up for that.
I mean, it's not that I don't really, let me rephrase it. I like Def Leppard. I don't listen to much Def Leppard. They're not.
Well, you should listen to more Def Leppard.
Oh, yeah. Well, my best friend is a huge Def Leppard fan, so I've been slowly getting more into them as I hang out with them. So,
because contrary to popular opinion, love does indeed bite, and it bleeds, and it's bringing you down on your knees.
Well, love hurts, love stings.
Robert, we gotta get this, man. Maybe you do need a Pepsi. You need to wake up, man. Where are you at tonight?
I don't get Def Leppard references very well. I've got.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just about to say I got like a cavalcade of soda in front of me for like the multiple hours of podcasting to do tonight, but no Pepsi. Got vanilla Coke.
Do we need to get Bane out here? Will Bane fix everything? Will Bane make it all right?
It will be this podcast reckoning.
All right, shut up for a moment. Let me talk to Sean. Sean, what's going on, man?
Not much, man.
For the people who have never listened to this podcast before, and of course you can hear all the Radulich and Broadcasting shows on Stitcher and iTunes, as well as blogtalkradio.com, and of course all over 411mania.com. What is it exactly you do for 411?
I am I work in the Game Zone as the Game's Top 5 organizer. I do game reviews. I also contribute to the Music Buy or Sell sometimes, Music Top 5. And, of course, me and Robert are both in the 4-1 Games podcast that comes on right after this podcast.
Oh, fantastic.
God help Stephen Randall. God help Stephen.
All right. As I said at the top of the show, tonight, after we've done with all the silliness, we're going to review Black Sabbath's new album, 13. And before we get into this, let's talk a little bit, because I feel like if we just review 13 in a bubble, we're really going to miss some of the finer points of what these individuals were trying to get across with this album. So let's just have a brief discussion about Black Sabbath. And I was talking to these gentlemen off air through Facebook, and one of the things that I had said was, Black Sabbath invented heavy metal for the most part. Without Black Sabbath, we really don't have modern metal. And I can respect that, and there are even some Black Sabbath songs that I really, really like. However, by and large, and this is where I want your guys' commentary. I'll start with Sean and then Robert. I'm not a huge fan of doom metal. I'm not a huge fan of slow tempo metal, and that's a lot of Black Sabbath. So, Sean, what exactly, when we say Black Sabbath invented heavy metal, what are we talking about here, and what is the quintessential Black Sabbath sound?
Well, I mean, they invented basically almost everything that you can think of for metal. They invented the horror music part of it, that it's out to scare you, that it's very talking about anything from, Led Zeppelin did some of this too, but talking anything from fantasy to demons to, pretty much anything you see in a horror film. And it even also will talk about politics and stuff, as we see with War Pigs and various other things. The sound that they brought, obviously with Iommi messing up his 2 fingers, brought a whole different sound to the world that basically is the essence of doom metal, with basically what you get in the Black Sabbath song. That is the essence of metal in its infancy. The whole doom and gloom, the world is, things are going wrong with me, but you have this nasty, gnarly guitar sound, this bass that fills up an entire room behind it, Ozzy's wail that, now is a bunch of growling and whatever, but Ozzy's awesome wail that he had back then with the lyrics made by Geezer is just something that you didn't have much of back then. It brought this entire, who the heck is this, and I want more. And metal wouldn't exist without them.
And, of course, Black Sabbath was sort of, in terms of a band name, was the Dead Kennedys of its time. It was something that really stuck in the face of people, went against the grain. And the whole package of Black Sabbath went against the collective majority, went against the mainstream. And that's one of the defining principles of heavy metal, is that it was the anti-radio. And granted, some of the stuff did make radio and still does today, but at the time it was a challenge to the status quo. Now, on this podcast, we have somebody who just loves himself some doom metal. So what does Black Sabbath mean to you, Mr. Robert Cooper? Why is Black Sabbath, besides the reasons we've already talked about, why is Black Sabbath so great and important?
Well, as Sean said, the lower tuning due to Tony Iommi's missing fingers is really the thing that got metal started, because you've got a band like Led Zeppelin who had some things that, if you look at them a certain light, you're like, okay, I could see how this is metal. But really they're more of a hard rock band, and what really put Sabbath over that hard rock hurdle was just that lower tuning and the whole atmosphere and what they were really accomplishing. Now, in terms of what makes Black Sabbath great, what makes them awesome, it's really hard to find, at least in those first, first 4, maybe 5 albums. It's really hard to find a clunker of a song, and especially in a time where it was really 1 or 2 songs on the album were knock out of the park, and then the rest of them were kind of filler. Just they could put it on the record and sell something. Black Sabbath they really have a lot of songs about different contents, about different things, different content, just like Sean said. They have songs about wars. They have songs about the devil. They have songs just about religion in general. I think it really shows, I guess the fact that they were younger, it really shows that they had more things to draw upon, I guess, in a different worldview than they do now, which now it's a lot about death and, they still have some of the occult and everything and family issues and whatnot. But I think definitely once they got older, they started focusing more on death, which is, kind of a thing that happens when you get older. Yeah. But, yeah, they are pretty much like the benchmark. When you listen to all no, it's not 14 songs. I don't even know how many albums they have anymore. It's a lot. When you go through their whole discography, there are going to be some awful albums, but especially like once you get to the 90s with Tony Martin was helming it, and then you had that Dio album in the middle. Everything besides Forbidden was amazing. And I think I like that. There's like a nice stamp of quality that comes with the Black Sabbath name that usually does hold up. Now, kind of like the Nintendo seal of quality. It doesn't always hold up, but for the most part, I think it really, like the name itself really lends to, quality. Just like metal. Just like metal is always quality. Okay, not always quality.
So changing gears here, they put out this album 13.
Awful name, by the way. Awful album title.
Well, I want to actually.
Which it's not even their 13th album either. So it's their 19th album.
No, but I think it was based on the year that it was coming out. It was like, look, it's 2013 and we're still doing this 97 years later. But it came out June 10th, 2013. It's had fair to positive reviews. First single came out in April, and it was for God Is Dead? ? And we had this conversation before, so for the sake of the listeners tonight, Sean, what was Black Sabbath attempting to do with this album? And they've had a storied career, different singers, obviously. They've experimented with some degree of different musical styles and, bringing in other people and working on various projects. But they sort of returned to their roots here with this album. So talk to me a little bit about what this iteration of Sabbath with Geezer Butler, Tony Iommi, and Ozzy, what were they trying to do with 13?
Well, it has to do mainly with, Rick Rubin, who is the ultimate, rock fan that loves to bring back, groups that seem to be on the wayward end and bring them back to relevancy like they did with Metallica, and Death Magnetic. So he's trying to do in the same vein, pretty much. He told Metallica to make a sequel to Master of Puppets, and that's what Death Magnetic was supposed to be. Now he told Black Sabbath to forget Paranoid happened and make a sequel to the original Black Sabbath album. Make a drowned in blues, that old school, like really Sabbath music, and bring us back to that time. Don't worry about going forward. Just let's see that you still got the old Sabbath first. And that's a lot of what this album is. There's a lot of the Black Sabbath song, Planet Caravan, even NIB shows up in one of the songs, which is not on that album. They're in later albums. But still, the point is, he wanted to see, as a big Sabbath fan, can they still do Sabbath? And that's what you get here, basically.
All right, so it becomes about two things. One, did they accomplish that? I think that is one of the things that we need to look at tonight in reviewing this album. Did they accomplish being able to create an adequate, serviceable, even good sequel to the original Black Sabbath album? And then two, it doesn't really matter what your intention is. You can have, mission accomplished, but if the shit sucks, then that's the end of the discussion. It all comes down to did you or did you not like the goddamn thing? So we're going to look at both of those questions by the end of this podcast. So let's get into this, all right? First track here is 97 minutes long. No, it's 8 minutes 5 seconds. We're gonna hear a little bit
like that to you, didn't it?
I don't.
It felt like 97.
I'll talk to you about that in just a moment. Let's get into the very first track here. This is End of the Beginning. We're going to play a couple of minutes of it because it's about as long as the Lord of the Rings trilogy. This podcast will be over by the time the song is done playing. I just want you to be aware of that. Well, they certainly captured the funeral dirge sound. Robert Cooper, what the hell's happening here?
Hey, don't knock funeral dirge or funeral doom. Funeral doom is actually a genre where it's like that slow. See, now you know how I felt during the Hate Breed podcast.
But Hate Breed was happy and it was moving and things were, it was, you know.
I don't like hardcore that much. So you don't like doom. Yeah, I'm not a hardcore guy. But, yes, what is happening with this song, as you can probably, anybody who has heard, like, the first track of any Black Sabbath greatest hits, that song had a lot of the Black Sabbath, the song in it, had that, you know, kind of nice start. It didn't have the Rain and the Thunderbolt, that's later, but it had that same kind of long intro, and then it would went to kind of a more quiet sound, and then it brought in Ozzy, who, I guess I'll go ahead and address Ozzy. Ozzy sounded better than he has on his last few solo albums. I don't know whether I should credit that to Rick Rubin or him, but one thing I will say about that is he does sound better, but there's a quality to it that is, it's good, but it doesn't capture like a live sound. It really feels like it's in a studio, and maybe it's just because I'm a weirdo, but that really distracts me sometimes. So I'm like, this is just too clean for like the rest of the sound, which is really, you know, dirty and deadly and doomy. But yeah, the song itself, you know, I think we only got like what? We only got like 7 minutes of that 50-minute opus, right? Yeah, but the song itself, it's slow, but once it gets going, after that slower section, it speeds up just like, you know, a lot of Black Sabbath does, a lot of Doom does. Actually, this song really, just in terms of structure and tone, as well as reminding me of the original Black Sabbath, reminded me of a song by Candlemass called Samaritan, which is about a guy who, like, saves a saves a beggar, and it turns out to be, I don't know, some celestial being. He turns into an angel. Yeah. But yeah, this was really a quintessential Black Sabbath song. It was actually a pretty good foot to start out on if you're wanting to please your more hardcore Sabbath fans, because the casual fans would go, "Where's Paranoid?" And this wasn't Paranoid, but this is a really nice slow start, and not slow start as in how Mark was feeling. Like the song was slow, but it was slow as in it accomplished what it was supposed to, and I think it did a good job. Yeah.
All right.
Well,
look. Having already been through the Hate Breed podcast with you, I don't want to continually bash this because this will be the big thing with Robert and I going back and forth finding albums the other one hates. I don't want it to go there. But
well, no, actually, I thought you would have liked Black Sabbath. I didn't know you really had that much of it today, or not exactly a disdain, but really just.
I guess I'm one of those. I guess I'm going to put on my Tap Out T-shirt and be one of those douchebags. I like Paranoid. That's the kind of Black Sabbath I do enjoy. I'm so ashamed.
It's a good song.
And I don't hate that Black Sabbath either. I like that Black Sabbath too. But to me, I think it's one of those, like, if you love the band, you have to take what came before Paranoid along with Paranoid and all the albums after.
Yeah, I wasn't meaning to deride anybody who likes Paranoid. That is a great song, but the slower songs are the ones you don't really hear on the radio anymore.
You know what I like? I like the Wizard. Look, if I'm going to get an album, here's the thing. If I'm going to get an album of everything Black Sabbath already did, just updated for 2013, give me all the Wizard. Give me 45 minutes of the Wizard, and I'll be happy.
Hey, you get some harmonica in this album.
If I get 45 minutes of the Wizard, I'm happy. You give me 45 minutes of Black Sabbath doing Black Sabbath, and I want to drive my car into a Black Sabbath.
See that?
Yeah, but they don't do like Black Sabbath the entire time.
No,
they don't.
This is, no, it's just that. Like I said, I think really a lot of the more hardcore people, they like the more power metal stuff, which is way later, or they really have a love for the doom. I think the more casual fans. I'm not insulting any casual fans. I'm just saying I think the stuff that's played on the radio is what they more expect, and this is not. This isn't what they're starting with, which is fine. They'll get the stuff that's more like.
Yeah, but the difference is though the Black Sabbath song never actually picks up, whereas this song actually in like halfway through does. And there's the part that you didn't play. There's an actual pickup here, and it gets interesting if you don't like the doom part.
We didn't have 20, but we didn't have 5 hours to wait.
I know, I understand what you're saying. I'm just trying to, get to the point that it's not like at least they sat there and tried to do the whole Black Sabbath song over. They did it at the beginning to let you know, hey, we're doing Sabbath. This is Sabbath from the beginning. This is who we used to be. We're getting you that point. It sounds basically he switched the one question for the who is this? We don't get the who is this who stands it for me. We get the question that he asks. Is this the end before the beginning? Basically, same thing. And then it goes into a trollop. So
it's more like a traditional, like all the traditional doom metal stuff that came out towards the later '80s with Candlemass and stuff. A lot of their doom had that quality. Like it'd start kind of slow and then it'd pick up. I like that because it isn't, as just Sean is correct. The whole song is not turtle slow, but like I said, I like that it started turtle slow.
Okay. This next song is the single, and of course it's a really rip-roaring tune that you can shake your booty to, boot scoot across the dance floor. It's 3 minutes times 5. It's how did anyone pick? It's almost 9 minutes long, and someone decided this would be a good idea to release this as a single.
Well, maybe if they cut out 70 of the times he asked if God is dead, it'd be down to maybe 6 minutes.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Here's the problem. I think Ozzy would have only asked once or twice if God is dead. The problem is Ozzy is going deaf and didn't hear God. See, that's the issue here.
Well, and Ozzy relapsed, so he's probably
so
not
when
God
just stopped answering, he just wasn't listening.
God. Yeah,
he's had too much of Sharon yelling at him throughout the years that he can't hear at all.
Are you dead, God?
Hello, God. I throw a turkey over the fence. Are you dead? Ugh. Here it is, folks. Question mark. God is dead? kill myself every. Sorry, I'll be good.
I'll make you a noose while the song goes. Is Mark dead?
No, I'm very much alive, though I do feel like I've been waiting for a bus in Brooklyn to come. Look, can I just put this out there? Sean,
no.
You seem like a reasonable... Stop it. Sean, you seem like a reasonable fellow. You seem like you're on in years and you know your music, and I feel like you can answer this question for me. Haven't we already done the God is dead thing already? As a meme, as a theme, as something that musicians have tackled time and time again in metal, aren't we like done with God is dead? And furthermore, isn't it made worse by the fact that like 97-year-old, you notice how I really like that number, 97-year-old men, I really do, 106-year-old men have decided to
they got older?
as I was asking that question, have decided to toy around with this idea that, people a third their age have already tackled and done away with about a decade ago. I mean, it's just, this feels like Vince McMahon ordering fans to Fandango, well after, the moment had already passed. You know what I'm saying?
To be fair to Fandango, it's not his fault he got a concussion, and then that didn't get to keep going. But anyway, to me, I think the part of it is, to be fair to Black Sabbath, it's not their fault that they didn't get to have an album until right now altogether. So I guess they get to tackle that meme or whatever. Quite frankly, it's not that it's the fact that he does it so many times. By the time you get to like the end of the song, you're like, my God, for one, you could have cut this to like 5 minutes because you didn't need him to say 75 times, is God dead or God is dead or whatever. you can say you get a little bit of other Black Sabbath songs in here, which is good because that's where you get a little bit of Iron Man mixed with Cradle of the Grave, which is nice in that little part before he starts singing. And, that's the good part of it. It does have the awesome guitar and bass work, but it's like, this is the one song I don't like. I don't understand how this was a single because it's the most annoying song on the album to me personally. And like y'all said, it seemed like Ozzy was deaf, and it doesn't matter how many times he got told, hey, you said this about 20 times already. You got to say it 20 more times because somebody didn't hear it.
Deaf. Is Oz deaf.
But that's the thing. It's no longer that he's trying to be poignant and asking a question that goes against the grain of culture. He just sounds like a nagging old bitch. God is dead. 20 minutes later, all right, God's dead. Shut up already.
You're right, but still, the fact is that, when this whole band started, when they were asking us questions, it's because they had no other recourse. They had to just go out there and be a band because they couldn't go back and work in the steel mills. I mean, now it does sound like crap because they're all old and they got some money and, they're just doing this because they want to be Black Sabbath again.
You're right. It doesn't sound authentic, and I think that's part of my problem with this. I mean, aside from the length and everything else I've already made fun of up to this point, we're 2 songs into this, and about 94 minutes in, it changes up that time, Mr. Cooper. We're 8 hours into this album, and it doesn't feel authentic. You talked at the beginning about how they were trying to go back and sort of create a sequel to the original Black Sabbath album, and it feels forced and inauthentic. Robert Cooper, take the stand, defend these 2 tracks up to now.
Ooh, no, see, I thought you were about to say the album in general, because I was like, well, up to these 2 tracks, I honestly think...
it gets better eventually, but up to now, man, I mean... 2 more tracks, and I'm going to reveal to the world what I told Robert on Facebook earlier today. But I want to get there first. But go on.
Yeah, I think some of these tracks have the same problem that Metallica's Load had. It was a different problem after this album sucks. But it's just the fact there's kind of a lack of editing within the songs that they go 8-9 minutes, and that doesn't bother me personally because I like some progressive, as we talked earlier before the show. I think we all like progressive music. I like doom metal, so 7-8 minute run times with slow tempo is nothing that really phases me. But I do agree with you that this doesn't. I'm not going to say it doesn't feel like Black Sabbath because it does. I just feel like maybe they should have put this song later because we got 2 over 8 minute long quote unquote epics. I guess we got 2 8-minute long songs in a row, and.
But that's the problem with this one, though, is it doesn't change much pace unlike the first one.
No, this one doesn't. It kind of, it really reminded me, I couldn't exactly put a song with it, but it really had, I guess it's just kind of like what Black Sabbath does, that this one really, it really had 2 modes to it. It had kind of the ominous beginning, and then it had the Is God Dead, which... In their defense, they haven't done an album, like the 3 of them haven't done an album in like 35 years, so they kind of didn't get to tackle this back when it was popular. So I kind of give them a pass just on the fact that, I guess they got to make up for some borrowed time.
Look, my suggestion then to these 3 gentlemen is if they're going to do another Black Sabbath album together, bring in, I don't know, someone from the Pussycat Dolls, bring in Justin Bieber. Bring in, I don't know, who do the kids listen to today? Bring in some young... Are you
seriously saying we need to bring in Justin Bieber?
If they bring in Justin... Ozzy doesn't even know what Bieber is. He still doesn't, so there's no point.
Ozzy got the Bieber fever. Now listen, what I'm trying to say is they need a They need a consultant of some sort. Just somebody in the room, not contributing to the music per se, not playing an instrument, but I'm not saying they need to do like a single with Bieber. That wasn't what I was getting at. But they need to bring in a youth consultant. So when these 3 old men are drinking their Ensure and trying to figure out what the hell they're going to write, and someone goes, "I've got it. The kids talk about is God dead. Let's do that." There can be somebody in the room going, "No, you fucker. It's been dead for like that's been done 20 times 20 years ago. Enough. Move on. Do something else." They need that.
Yeah, I could see that, especially for this. I think the main problem with this song is just the fact that it does go on with "Is God Dead," and it just kind of grates after a while. Like, one thing I will say about like the chorus of the song, it is very catchy. It's one thing I do like about doom metal is that there's a lot of the slower pace brings for catchiness because you have more time, kind of build up to it. But yeah, just screaming about wine and bread, which the whole time he was saying, "I'll take the wine." I'm like, no, Mark takes the wine.
All right, let's move on.
You need to be like Sean. You need to be like Sean during the Twilight podcast. Just bring out the booze.
All right. Speaking of booze, let's move on to track 3 here. This is Loner. Oh yeah! Sorry. Let's go. I really liked that song. I liked it even better when it was Nativity in Black.
I didn't.
Yep.
Oh, when he first went, "All right, yeah," I was like, even now I'm just groaning at it. I'm like, do not put Ozzy's vocal filler into the song. It sounds
dude, it was
when
the
it's
same
not
song. Oh yeah.
It's very much the same guitar lick from NIV. And you know what? If you're gonna pick one of Sabbath's great songs to do another guitar lick from, NIV is one of the greatest ones to use. It makes after you have the two songs that are kind of slow, it automatically kicks you in like, oh yeah, all right, my head's banging, I'm going. I can ride to this in my car, I'm good.
Yeah, this should have been the second song.
It was definitely better. No, you're right. It should have been the second song. And I was bobbing my head, and I was enjoying it. Here's my problem. It was Nativity in Black. I mean, you can't even be like, oh, Hatebreed does the same song over and over again. Hatebreed changed it up just a bit. Fintroll changes it up just enough to make it feel like it's a different song. That was the same exact fucking song. No, my point
is... It wasn't the exact same.
Yes, it was. Do I need to play it again?
It was an homage.
Nativity in Black is about Lucifer trying to, be who he is and be sneaky, and this is about a loner. Quite frankly, Lucifer's a loner, but still.
You can't pull the wool over my eyes, sir. I wasn't born yesterday. I did not just...
I'm not trying to wool over anybody's eyes. I'm saying there is different lyrical content.
Well, yeah, the lyrical content. I will say that the riff does have many similarities. Like, it's almost the same damn riff. But... Almost. Well, it's not quite. It is not the exact same, but there's enough in it.
No, you're absolutely right, guys. You're absolutely right.
And it obviously doesn't have Geezer Butler's awesome bass thing before it, too.
Well, he does get a bass solo later.
You guys are right. You guys are right. So I'm going to form a band, and I'm going to take everybody else's music and just write my own lyrics and say, yep, new song. Oh, wait, we've already got one of those. It's called Kid Rock.
Kid Pop. Kid Country. Hey, at least we're not cussing.
But that was his thing. It was
to be fair to him, he did do rock at one point.
I know. I'm being a smart ass.
The thing of it is, he stole a Metallica song, wrote a rap over it, got Metallica's approval for stealing their... Yeah, he did, actually. Got Metallica's approval for stealing their music, and then declared it was his own song, which I feel Black Sabbath is stealing from themselves.
Well, isn't that what rap does all the time?
Yeah, I mean, there's a fucking, what is it? What's her face? Brandy? Yeah, she took The Klansman by Iron Maiden and sampled it, the intro to it. And I was just sitting there, I'm like, you can't do that. And then I'm like, maybe she can. I'm like, actually, you know what this reminds me of, Mark? You know what you just reminded me of? You remember when John Fogerty got sued for plagiarizing himself?
No, but that's a fun story. Do tell.
Oh, you didn't know about that one? I forget what it was. I think it was when he left Bad Company, because my dad told me this story like many times. It's like when he left Bad Company or something, he went off and did his own stuff, and somebody got pissed about it. Got a lawyer and like, oh, John Fogerty, we're suing you because you're plagiarizing people. Like who? Like you? That's right. You play music just like you play. I'm like, that makes no sense. My dad's
Are you sure he wasn't being plagiarized for doing CCR when he's John Fogerty by himself, which technically wouldn't totally be him?
CCR.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some legal reason why that made sense, but it's funny to say out loud.
Yeah,
even though he wrote most of the songs anyway.
Yeah, but they were like, you're plagiarizing yourself. Which I mean, I don't know. I guess we can get a band together, play a few covers of Sabbath and be like, oh, Sabbath's plagiarizing themselves on this new album. I mean, it doesn't bother me because I guess maybe it's just the fact that I'm just happy to see this band together.
Yeah, you are definitely coming from a starstruck point of view on this, where you're being awfully forgiving of this band because you really, really like them.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been making fun of it with you. I fully admit that they are plagiarizing themselves and blah blah blah. It's just the fact it's not a bad song still.
Okay. Sean, any thoughts on...
But once again, wasn't this the point? Wasn't this the point of taking you back to, if this was a sequel to Black Sabbath, the original album, which this is on the original album, NIV was.
Well, hang on.
There's a second song to that. So.
Let me dispute that, because you also said Death Magnetic was supposed to be a sequel to Master of Puppets. I've listened to Death Magnetic. I liked Death Magnetic.
It was not.
It was not.
There's more.
There was nothing on there that was so similar to Master of Puppets. They're going, hey, wait a minute, that's Battery.
It was more a sequel to And Justice for All.
That was kind of
Give
my
it
that he threw me when he said that. But if the point of it was to make a sequel to Master of Puppets, they managed to do it without copying themselves down to the exact lick.
Granted, yes, I will agree with that.
Oh, but, God, I'm just imagining James.
They also hadn't been out of the business for 35 years of being together? They had not done an album in since 2003 or 4.
Well, no, wait a minute now, because we keep coming back. It isn't as if Ozzy's been in some sort of a time capsule for the past.
Well, no, but I'm talking about the three of them. The three of them had not been totally together making a new album. Yeah, they've done tours with each other, doing classic stuff, but not. I'm just
Tony
saying.
Iommi finds Ozzy on Jabba the Hutt's wall, frozen in carbonite. I've missed a lot. What's going on here?
It was a time capsule filled with cocaine.
Well, to be fair, Ozzy once snorted a line of ants. And that said...
Oh, God. You brought that back. Good job, Mark. Good job.
And speaking of Ozzy snorting a line of ants, this is Zeitgeist. was at this point in listening to the album that I posted on Facebook on Robert Cooper's page. I can't take it anymore. I give up. Instead, I'm going to listen to nothing but Don't Dream It's Over, Hey Now, over and over again until I get to work. And I was a good 45 minutes away at that point.
Did you really?
Had this, yup. I put on Spotify, I just typed in Don't Dream It's Over because I've had that in my head since yesterday, and I listened to every single version of Don't Dream It's Over on Spotify. The Glee version, Robert Cooper. I listened to the Glee version of Don't Dream It's Over, originally by Crowded
Don't hate
House.
on Glee.
Hey, Sean likes Glee.
Well, whatever. So does my wife. In any case,
Jeremy Thomas, and he writes for this website, so don't...
Okay.
His wife is a very nice lady.
Crowded House, Sixpence None the Richer, which I really do enjoy that version. Glee, every other version of this I could find. That's what I did because I could not take it anymore. What are you doing to me, Robert Cooper? What's going on here?
Jesus, it's not that bad of a song.
Yeah, really. It channels Planet Caravan and all its greatness.
That was my reaction when I read that. I'm like, is he kidding? I'm like, I know. I don't remember this album being that bad. And then you were like, I don't like Doom. I'm like, oh, forgot about that. I mean, yeah, this is pretty much Planet Caravan 2.0. Like, I was really hoping Phil Anselmo would have taken over on vocals this time, but sadly not. I'm really looking forward to that new album. It's not on Spotify, though, sadly. Yeah, but, yeah, this was Planet Caravan 2.0. I actually did really like the song. I felt like it was a nice change of pace from the rest of the album, kind of like Planet Caravan, you know. I mean,
yeah, because up to this point, the album had been so fast and furious, I really needed to slow down and catch my breath.
Well, this was a different type of slow down and catch my breath. This was like, this wasn't like heavy. This was kind of mellow, which I would have.
This is like our one ballad.
I would have put this track later. There's a big problem with track placement in this because they went from long and doomy to Nativity in Black to Planet Caravan, which is slow and somber. They really should have reordered the track order of this just for Mark.
Yep. Because admittedly it gets better after this, but boy, it was a chore just to get through those first four songs. I'll tell you what. Sean Comer.
Well, Sean Garmer. Damn it.
Sean Garmer. Now, you initially were the one that said, "Oh, this was channeling Planet Caravan," and to you, is that really where we're at with this album? It's like it's good. It channels other songs.
Well, to be fair, in Paranoid, Planet Caravan is stuck right in the middle of Paranoid and Iron Man. So, I mean, they pretty much did the same thing here. Yes, it is. So, you know, it's kind of, I think, they're pretty much telling you the same thing. We're going to get faster after this. Just, you know, here's our little ballad, our little slow song that they usually have one of these in every album. Behind Wall of Sleep was kind of like that, too, on the first Sabbath album. So, you know, I don't hate it. I thought it was a pretty good song. Pretty much, as soon as I heard it, I was like, okay. They kind of rewrote Planet Caravan, which is okay. Once again, there's them channeling two of their classics back-to-back, which I mean, I might agree with Robert in that if it was placed later, you wouldn't get this whole stigma of we're doing a lot of nostalgia here. But once again, I still hold to the fact that they're trying to tell you we still got it as far as we can still do what we know how to do first. I swear I think that they have something planned for a 20th album later to, like, further progress themselves. But right now, this is...
We're going to
show you we still got it.
That was
no,
mean.
Please don't do that.
That was so mean.
Because Ozzy can't get anywhere near that high.
No. And just so I can go ahead and say this, because Mark is probably either he's going to bring it up or he's thinking about it. Yes, there was technically a Black Sabbath album in 2009 with Dio, but it was called Heaven and Hell, and they didn't do anything like this. So,
Well, yeah, all of Dio's stuff is much different because of his singing range and
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't like let's go play Heaven and Hell and all that. So I'm kind of defeating our point, but I'm assuming Mark is going to defeat our point. Unless he wasn't, then I just kind of killed us.
No, you're doing a splendid job yourself.
Oh, well, don't worry. I do a really good job of digging myself deeper into a hole. Just ask Clamato.
And speaking of Clamato, this is the Age of Reason.
Oh.
All right, 5 tracks later, we finally got somewhere with some balls, with some action. The old men have finally woken up and figured out, hey, wait a minute, we're a rock band, a metal band, as a matter of fact. And we finally get, A, the first original song on this album, B, a song that actually, for, slow and steady like a tortoise, is still pretty heavy and rocking, and it's the only song so far that I've actually liked that didn't sound exactly like something they played before.
Yeah. Again, song placement. This should have been like track 3.
No, this should have been 1. Okay?
Maybe.
Let me tell you something.
No. The first track was actually quite, even though it was too long, it was a very good opener for what it did.
Only if you want to put the audience to sleep.
Well, maybe they'll be behind the wall to sleep.
There was like 2 minutes of that. Then it goes into a gallop. What to sleep are you talking about?
I played half of the track, damn it, and I finally had to get. And for copyright infringement reasons, I couldn't play the whole thing. But you know what? Yeah, I'm telling you, man, it was half that song I played before we finally got anywhere.
I know. I know you did. Well, no, you didn't. You played like 2 minutes. You stopped right before it sped up.
You know what? I'll go back then at the end of the podcast and play it again, and we'll see how long it takes before the song finally wakes up and reminds everyone it's music.
Get the stopwatch.
But back to the Age
or
of
hit
Reason.
fast forward.
I wish I could on this. Believe me, I wish I could. So the Age of Reason, Sean Garmer. I mean, so far it's the best song on the album, I think, and I think it's the most original as far as licks and tunes go. Of what they've produced so far, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would agree in that it still sounds Sabbath, but it's something that you might not have heard before because you can't just sit there and place, this is from this song. It sounds like Sabbath, but it sounds like, this could have been a hidden track off of one of their other albums or whatever. And it's great because this is actually probably the first time that you actually don't hear, like, Wilkes try to be Martin. He kind of blends in with both Iommi and Butler here, and they create a big wall of awesome Sabbath blues sound that just kind of goes in with the whatever rhetoric that Ozzy is spewing about thunder and
thunder and Metamucil.
Yeah.
I'll sing about thunder. Da-na-na-na, in my shorts, da-na-na, flush the toilet. Sorry.
So this is a family. I'm kidding. This is not a family podcast. This is not a family podcast. The speaking of just on a random note, I have heard some of the hidden tracks on Sabbath albums. They do not sound like this because we get stuff like "Blow on a Jug." Mark, you should go find "Blow on a Jug" for our outro. It's 30 seconds of the geezer on the piano while Ozzy goes, "Blow on a jug, be like me and blow on a jug." Just that's the entire song.
Maybe some other time. Actually, okay. we should do one entire Metal Hammer of Doom podcast and just play weird shit. And we can play that. We can play Ode to a Bonus Track by Ed Guy. That's a personal favorite of mine. It's literally it's sung in first person, and it's about a bonus track. Like it's like the life and times of a bonus track, and it's like a bonus track at the piano singing a ballad about itself. It's pretty funny.
Wow,
those guys. I've heard a few songs there. They're pretty damn funny.
Yes, they are. All right, do we have anything else?
Bonus tracks are a bitch, though.
They can be.
Yeah, this was a good original song, as y'all said. It was because I will admit, listening to this album a second time, I definitely do hear everything that Mark is talking about, and I do somewhat agree, but I still do love this album.
Okay.
It's kind of like a retarded child. You love them anyways.
3 beers, everybody. All right. Because Ozzy Osbourne is made mostly of cocaine at this point. Here is "Live Forever." But you will, Ozzy. You will. You'll outlive us all.
Nah, Keith Richards will beat him.
Oh, God, could you imagine?
God. Or Madonna.
And while she's living forever, she'll also continue to forget she's actually from Detroit and continue to speak like she's from England. But back to Black Sabbath, who are from England for reals. Live Forever.
Yeah.
Sean Gomer. I heard a little. Am I mistaken? And did I hear a little "Children of the Grave" in there?
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. As soon as they got ramping up, it sounds just like children. Not just like, it sounds like a more solidified, less direct version of Children of the Grave, like a slower version of it, and more meaty version.
Yeah, I feel like they took a hook from "Children of the Grave" and just wrote an entire song around it. So this isn't complete. This isn't as completely offensive.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, I'm fine with that sort of thing. This isn't nearly as offensive as "Loner," which is the exact same song as "Nativity in Black." This one at least had some creative energy to it, in terms of, you had to really listen for it to hear "Children of the Grave."
Yeah. I think this would have been a really good single. If they were going to release a single, it should have been something like this, even if it is kind of sort of Nativity in Black, though. It took me a few listens oh, yeah, I do hear it. But, yeah, I think this would have been a much better. Heck, I might have actually gotten a few radio plays, because I didn't hear – well, then again, I don't listen to the radio because I have a CD case. But, yeah, I didn't hear "God Is Dead" on the radio. Yeah, not at all. Then again, I'm pretty sure they spent that 10 minutes on advertisements, right?
Sean, anything else to say about Live Forever?
I think this is one of those songs where Bill Ward might have done it a little bit more justice. I kind of miss his swing and his jazzy beats and all that he would put into the Sabbath songs, because people don't really think about it, but jazz has made a lot of metal what it is too. You know?
Oh yeah.
Do you think that the drummer on this, I think it was Bill Wilk,
Brad Wilk.
Brad Wilk, yeah. Do you think he was hampered by the fact that he was brought in to play drums for Black Sabbath, and it's kind of like he's not a member of the band. He was there to he was there because the original guy couldn't be there. So it's kind of like Jason Newsted's first gig in Metallica, where it's like, shut up and play bass. You're not you're part of the creative process. It would take another album or two.
We can hear the drums. We can hear the drums in this album.
True. not
yeah,
a fair comparison. But you see what I'm saying? Like, it's like shut up and play drums. And and unfortunately, instead of being able to add to the creative process, being what a drummer brings to the table, he's just there to play notes. Play notes on a page. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, and like I think I said somewhere in this that there's times where you feel like Wilk, who's formerly of Rage Against the Machine, who they have a few Sabbath elements, but they're more funk than blues. So he's used to a different kind of drumming than Bill Ward is. And, he tries in a certain way to make them kind of be modern with the way he drums. But there's other songs where it sounds like he's trying not to mess up.
Yeah.
And instead of blending, it kind of sticks out sometimes. So,
Yeah, I think they missed out by not adding someone to the creative process in the band. Instead of essentially they just brought in a session musician who's trying to keep his gig.
Yeah, I just don't know why. Like, I wonder if they actually tried to search for somebody that kind of does Sabbath music more, or if they just said, "Oh, this guy's from Rage, he has a name, just let's use him."
Well, actually, they were supposed to get the guy who's drumming for Ozzy, Tony Cluptos, but something like either Rick Rubin didn't want him, or had something to do with Rick Rubin, but he ended up not being in the studio. Like, he tours with Black Sabbath, he does drumming for their tour, but yeah, somehow they got Brad Wilk, and he's not Bill Ward. He does a serviceable job, but it does have the feeling of Newsted and Metallica. Like, you kind of just like, you're like, go away, Scab. You're not the one.
Yeah, I mean, he just met them there at the studio. He was never with them at all doing anything else. So
right, and again,
it's kind of like the Pete Best and Ringo situation. And wanted somebody, and the band wanted somebody else.
And I think that lends to the inauthentic feel of the music. Like I said, if I turn my brain off, some of these songs, all joking aside, are okay. They're fine. I can bob along. I'm sitting here as I'm doing the podcast, and I'm kind of bobbing along with it. But if you really start to listen and analyze these things, yeah, it just comes across as very, very plastic, very fake, unauthentic. Just, I feel like instead of just making the music they wanted to make, it just feels like a bunch of old guys completely out of touch with what's going on in the world, trying to recapture something. It's the Oasis deal, where Oasis asked, why can't we be the Beatles? Because it's 30 fucking years later. That's why you can't be the Beatles. We're living in a different time. It's just not what you are. You're Oasis, for Christ's sake.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say totally that. I mean, I think Geezer and Tony sound amazing on this. They sound like, they haven't missed a beat, while some of the riffs and stuff do sound like rip-offs of the earlier stuff, which is a shame, because maybe the fact it's been 35 years, everybody's wanting totally new. But I think Geezer and Tony did a really good job on this. Like, they both sound really motivated and great. Ozzy sounds okay. Like, yeah.
Sounds like Ozzy.
But yeah, Ozzy sounds like he made his way out of the methadone clinic quite well.
All right.
Well, I mean, but it's not like he was terrible on his solo album, the last solo album he was on either. I mean, he sounds good for what he has at the moment. You know, he's still hitting notes. He hits some notes in here that you think he wouldn't be able to hit with all the damage he's done to himself.
I know.
For that,
I know people criticize No More Tears. They're like, oh boy, Ozzy went soft on that one. But I remember listening to it when it first came out, and I really liked No More Tears. I liked the whole album, and it felt like Ozzy was, a contributing factor to the music. His last couple of solo albums felt like they had to, get him, wake him up out of a coma, put him in front of a mic, hold a gun to his head and said, now sing, monkey, sing. And he did, and he had no more part of the creative process than, what I just described. And, that's probably not altogether true, but that's what it felt like to me. It did not feel as organic as No More Tears did, where I felt like he was actually a part of the creative process. I can't, you guys may disagree, and that's fine. That's what discussion's all about, but it just feels more like the last couple of solo Ozzy albums where, from a purely, from a sound point of view, yeah, he's hitting all the notes. It's not like, this isn't like Johnny Cash towards the end where he's singing Bridge Over Troubled Water and it sounds like he's not going to make it to the end of the song. It's not like that.
He just croaks in the middle of it.
I got bridge, he didn't think he was going to live through Hurt. That's how bad that was towards the end. But it's not like that. But again, it doesn't feel real to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. John, am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy. It's just whether he had something to do with the music on his last two solo albums or whatever is irrelevant. He sounds good, and that's what people are going to think about at the end of the day. And to me, even if, maybe it wasn't Ozzy material, it was pretty awesome from the fact that, okay, this is coming from Ozzy. That's just pretty damn good. Maybe somebody else wrote it. Yeah. Zach Wild.
They should have got Zach Wild to do vocals because he just sounds like Ozzy with Jello in his mouth.
And speaking of Ozzy with Jello in his mouth, here is Damaged Soul.
What?
What?
Born under a bad sign. I'm sorry. You guys had to be in the room with me. Oh, because I'm thinking, as the song starts, and I'm thinking Born Under a Bad Sign, and I don't know why I thought that. Maybe this is something about how that song resonated tripped that song. But then he goes, "Born in a Graveyard," and I'm trying to choke back laughter.
Ozzy was reading your mind. He changed the lyrics of the song just for you, Mark. You should feel special.
Yeah, yep. He was speaking to me in Damaged Soul. Sean Gomer. What can one say about Born in a Graveyard?
Well, he is definitely a damaged soul if he's born in a graveyard, right? I really like this song. I like later on in the song, there's a lot of awesome solos by Iommi. The bass, obviously, like Robert said, if anything, this album shows you that Geezer and Iommi still have it, and they never lost it, and they could go on to make albums by themselves even without Ozzy, and it'd be great, as they showed with Ronnie James Dio with Heaven and Hell. But I really enjoyed this song. It was maybe a little bit too long. It's bordering on the 8 minutes. It doesn't have that gallop that it gets into in the first song, so it kind of stays in the same rhythm the entire time, I guess, trying to give you the personification of it's a damaged soul, we're all damaged here, we're all we're staying in the same vein, but it's good, and I'm fine with that, I guess.
Robert Cooper, Damaged Soul,
yeah.
Do your thing.
If you're born, one thing I must say, if you are born in a graveyard, that must have been a really bad funeral.
Boo! Be more funny. Sorry, go on.
Oh, actually thought that was quite clever. Oh well. Yeah, this song, I really dug the bluesy feel that this song had. It did go on for quite a while. Yeah, a lot of these songs went on quite a while, which, as I said, it didn't really bother me too much, but I can really see how if you're not me, it could bother you. Like if you're Mark and you're like, come on, get along, come on. I got me some Christian rock to be listening to.
All right. And speaking of Christian rock, here is the final track on the studio album proper,
Jesus.
13.
These are the worst segues.
I'm really not trying at all. I'm just trying to move the podcast along. Because unlike these Ozzy songs, we don't have all night to listen to them. All right, so this is track. No, we don't. This is
we got till midnight. That's when Randall's podcast starts.
I have a jail to work in tomorrow, and I'd like to get to it with my eyes open. So here is track 8, the last track on the studio album proper, and we are going to look at the last the 3 tracks on the Spotify version, because this is some of the more interesting songs on this whole thing. So track 8,
right.
Dear Father.
Childhood innocence was drowning your tears. The demons that you fought are feeding your fears. The poison secrets of your life then reveal. The truth destroys you, it's no longer concealed. Dear Father, forsaken, you knew what you were doing. In silence, your violence has left my life in ruin, in ruin,
This whole album was just ordered wrong. It really was. It was like they put the slower stuff up front, and and they put the faster, more interesting stuff towards the end. And I just it's just tempo wise, album construction wise, I just felt like this whole album suffers from a lack of editing, and I felt like there was no one managing this. It was almost like whoever was producing this was just like, whatever you guys want to do, you're Black Sabbath, and there was nobody saying no. There was no one being the director and saying, no, you can't do that. That's terrible. I don't care that you're Black Sabbath. You're a bunch of crazy old men. That element seems to be missing here.
Bad Ozzy, put that beer down. Bad Ozzy.
Yeah, that's right.
We need, if only Sharon could have been in there. I'm kidding. I am kidding. God, am I kidding? No. Okay, this actually is one of my favorite songs off the album. Like, I got, 4 off the main. Like I said, I do like this album. This one I like, especially because, the lyrical content was actually something different than the rest of the album, in my opinion. Like, it was kind of talking more about, an abusive father, which, I'm pretty sure some of the members of the band could definitely, put themselves in. I mean, I don't know. I read Ozzy's book. I don't think he really had too bad of a dad, but, everybody's got their problems. But, yeah, I really dug this song. It was again, it's kind of long. They have, how many? Almost 4. How many songs is it? 4 or 5 songs is almost 8 minutes long? Something like that.
Yeah, it's about 4 songs, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 songs, and there's how many tracks? 8? Yeah. Holy shit. Actually, no, 1, 2, 3. No, 5 songs are over 7 minutes.
Yes, and then you wondered why I wanted to drive off the fucking road.
Well, I mean, I don't purposely pick albums that you're going to hate. I really do. Because if I did that, I could have trolled you weeks ago. All right, Marco. Megadeth's fine. Well, what are we going to give a retrospective of? Let's go for November's Doom.
God. So,
yeah,
Sean,
you would probably hang yourself after that.
I'm telling you right now, I'm going to start loading this podcast up with, Don't Dream It's Over and Sophia the First, and, I'm going to have this,
Oh, God.
I hear a song that I don't like. I'm going to start playing Comfortable Shoes. That's what I'm going to do. These feet were made for comfortable shoes.
Why? That's not fair.
Hey, my daughter even has Sophia the First shoes, so,
there you go.
I don't even want to get into having to listen to that over and over.
John Garmer knows what I'm talking about when I say comfortable shoes.
I don't.
Yeah.
Cause
when you have kids, if Sophia the First is still around, Robert, you'll get what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, I get to hear about all the time how I tortured my parents with the Barney theme song over and over and over and over.
Oh God, the Barney theme song. Don't even get me started on that.
But I would like to get started on
I agree
this track here.
I agree with Robert. This is probably the best as far as lyrical content in the song that actually is kind of forward-thinking in that this is something that a lot of people can relate to. So,
yeah.
And it starts off from the outset. You don't have any of this intro stuff. It just goes. Immediately they come in. You have the dirty, nasty track behind Ozzy. He immediately gets into this is about a kid, whatever, that's been abused by his father. You're getting that, and you can automatically identify with it. That's part of the, a lot of that is it's Sabbath in the early days. It was more about the music. It wasn't so much about the lyrical content. Kind of just went, in one ear and out the other. This is kind of like maybe they should have had a little bit more of this throughout the album instead of so much of the trying to take you back.
Too kind. How about not maybe? How about definitely?
Well,
maybe
you're
show
still
your life
trying to
experience.
get a theme here. That's why I say not everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, some themes. Well, I will say one thing about this album is that the album cover is awful too. I hate.
Flaming 13.
Yeah, when I saw this album cover, I texted my best friend Nick, who's the biggest Black Sabbath fan I know. I'm like, this album cover is shit. The album title is shit. I am not excited.
What was
Flaming
his reaction?
13. What?
What was his reaction?
His reaction was like, oh, it wasn't that bad. I'm like, dude, yes. I mean, look at even the shitty Black Sabbath albums had a decent cover. except for
You-
Born Again. That was just.
Here's what I'm noticing. We got some Black Sabbath apologists on this podcast. We got people talking about, oh, it's not that bad. Rose-colored glasses, my friend. Shit is shit. Call shit when you see it. That's all I'm gonna say.
He texted me.
We can
about
also
God
turn
is
the
Dead.
other. The shoe can be on the other foot. You don't like Black Sabbath for the most part, so you're already predisposed to. Who cares? I don't like.
I went into this with an open mind. Okay, we could have had some The Wizard on this, some Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, some Paranoid.
There's harmonica on this.
Nope, I got what felt like 93 hours of na 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 na.
Oh.
My wife was like, "What did you think of the dude?" She's like, "You got to go do your podcast, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "You don't sound very excited." I'm like, "Melissa, it was like 2 hours of na 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 na. Oh yeah, na 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 na." And 20 minutes later, she was like, "Go do your fucking podcast before you end up in a divorce court."
No, Nick texted me
wow.
like after listening to God is Dead, and he's like, "Dude, I think it was actually one of my top 5 favorite Sabbath songs." I'm like, "It was okay, but it wasn't that good." I'm like, "You're really looking."
Yeah, really.
Well, no, I told him like I think you need to really give it a little while and just let the newness come off. Like it's like you get a new CD, this is the best CD ever, and then you kind of look back in retrospect, and it isn't. It's kind of one of those.
This is the Phantom Menace of Black Sabbath albums, okay? People want to like it because it's Black Sabbath, but you take a step back and just look at it and go, I'm going to forget this is Ham Sandwich the band and not Black Sabbath. You'd realize, hey, wait a minute, this has got some problems.
You can't even at least call it the Revenge of the Sith of Black Sabbath.
No, it's
Jesus.
the Phantom Menace, okay? Somewhere out there, Jake Floyd is playing on this album.
No, it's not that bad, honestly.
Oh man, and Forbidden is the Phantom Menace. the album that killed the band.
Sabbath doing old Sabbath is still better than a lot of the bands out there.
Better than Ham Sandwich Black Sabbath.
All right. And speaking of ham sandwiches, this is Methodemic, and these are now the 3 bonus tracks that you get when you listen to it on Spotify. So we are now into the bonus material, which is better than some of the crap that made it onto the actual album. So straight out of Polk County, Florida, here's Methodemic. Is there a more 21st century song in terms of theme, more contemporary than singing about meth? I mean, come on. When I think 21st century,
would be proud.
When I think 21st
come on,
century,
Breaking Bad's all the rage right now. Are you kidding?
Yeah. I didn't even make that connection. I just know that meth is a hell of a drug, and it wrecks, communities far and wide. Despite, not to be political, but I remember reading an article about how there were like police captains and chiefs imploring the Bush administration to pour money into law enforcement against meth, and they still identified marijuana as the single biggest problem in America. And the cops were like, it's not even close. Please, meth labs are blowing up left and right across the United States. Help us. Give us money. They're like, no, arrest pot users. So,
here's the difference. Meth actually does bad things to you. Marijuana really doesn't.
Marijuana gets you a little crazy. I wouldn't know, but I don't do weed. But
the point of it is no one's ever blown up their greenhouse trying to grow marijuana. You know,
always not unintentionally.
You know, in the construction of methamphetamines, people have blown themselves to bits. I'm just saying. Strictly in terms of chemistry, one's more dangerous than the other.
Does anybody else get the irony that Ozzy was singing about how meth and drugs will ruin your lives, considering what we've known about?
Really.
During the recording of this.
Well, in Ozzy's defense, he once snorted a line of ants. I don't, again.
Well, yeah, but in his defense, no, he should have known better because he did snort a line of ants. He should have known.
But now you're making the argument that I made before about how, like, did someone just walk in, with a bunch of like words and themes, put them on a board, and they threw darts at it, and whatever the dart hit, like, wow, but it's cow manure, great, let's write a song about it. That's popular.
Well, I mean, I guess in Ozzy's defense, Ozzy doesn't write a damn thing, if I'm not mistaken. I think usually it's Geezer who writes.
Yeah, it's Geezer that writes everything as far as lyrics.
I'm just saying it's really funny hearing Ozzy sing about it.
Just say no, kids. Ozzy says just say no.
He's like, ants. Laps up dog piss and snorts ants. There we go.
Methademic is easily the most... Methademic is easily the most interesting song on the album, is it not, Sean Gomer?
Yes, it's the most in your face. It's the most. This actually sounds modern. I was sitting there going, wow, this doesn't sound like Black Sabbath at all. It sounds like Black Sabbath actually doing something different, which makes you think, why did they leave this off the album in the first place?
Again,
this is better than anything off of Super Collider.
There's a really funny bit on the Family Guy where, someone's like, it was one of those flashes where like, oh, this is worse than the time I was like Britney Spears coach or whatever, and it's she's eating all of this food and there's like a Millie Mousy person going, you shouldn't eat the carbs, and meanwhile she's shoveling food into her mouth. And again, that's what this feels like. It's like there was somebody in there going, maybe you should put Methademic on that. No, we need 9 songs that are all 120 minutes long.
Yeah, actually, I'm surprised none of these 3 bonus tracks got onto the main album, because a lot of them are as good, if not better, than some of the ones on the on the album. It kind of puzzles me when bands do that, when they put a bonus track that's better than a lot of the tracks on the album. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. But speaking of bonus tracks,
maybe I wonder if they're thinking, look, we're trying to do this the Sabbath way, whatever, but we're going to put these bonus tracks on here, and if it gets enough play, if people actually clamor for us to play these people clamor for us to play these at concerts and stuff like that, maybe this is the direction that we go in for the next album.
Okay.
Maybe. I could see it.
Maybe Black Sabbath will do an entire album and call it an ode to drugs. We'll do one about weed, one about meth, one about cocaine. Get some cat tranquilizers.
Every one under the sun. So.
Yeah.
One of them about cat urine. He's cheating.
I wrote this song about sniffing glue. It's just whatever gets him through the night.
I wrote a song about biting heads off bats.
Summon Rick James from your Ouija board.
And they can call it
about cocaine.
And they can call it in Ozzy's defense, he once snorted a line of ants.
Sounds like a punk song.
Or an anal cunt song, one of the two.
Oh, God. Seth Putnam, in hell.
All right, and this next song, number 10 of 11, so we're almost done here on this epic journey through 13. This is Peace of Mind, and ooh, they spelled peace, P-E-A-C-E, those crazy fellas.
Sabbath, bloody Sabbath.
Nothing more to do. God. Can we just move
Life
on?
is killing you. Yeah.
I don't even know the songs, but I can I totally know when he's about to say the title of the song, because like the preceding lyric. So as soon as he was like something that rhymes with mine, I'm like, all right, here it comes. Now, peace of mind, and click, and we're done.
Well, yeah. I mean, technically, you can bitch about a lot of music doing that. That's what annoys me about pop music, especially when it doesn't rhyme.
No, and that's fair, but it's still like the fact that I'm even noticing.
Black Sabbath.
Well, and the fact that I'm even noticing it tells you that I'm just bored with this whole thing.
You're ready for the sadness tin. Now, I'll ask you this question once we're done. That is related to last time.
Okay.
What? All right. All right. This song, this actually isn't this the shortest? Yeah, this is the shortest track on the whole album. On the deluxe edition.
It is.
And
here's a fun game. Here's a fun game. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
End of the beginning, 8 minutes, 5 seconds. God is Dead,
mm-hmm.
8 minutes, 55 seconds. Loner.
Jeez.
Oh, Lord.
4 minutes, 59 seconds. Zeitgeist, 4 minutes, 37 seconds. Age of Reason, 7 minutes, 1 second. Live Forever, 4 minutes, 45 seconds. Damaged Soul, 7 minutes, 55 seconds. Dear Father, 4 minutes, 41 seconds. Methodemic, 5 minutes, 56 seconds. Peace of Mind, 3 minutes, 41 seconds. Yes, it is the shortest song on here by a fairly large margin.
Yeah, I was just making sure I had it because I knew it was one of the last two. Yeah, I really wish the songs could have been closer to this. Now, I think this one did actually feel, I guess maybe it did feel short just because I was expecting it to go twice as long.
But it's the rest of it. I haven't aged an entire year while waiting for the song to end. I don't understand.
Well, I mean, heck, Black Sabbath aged like 6 years in between sentences, so,
All right. And finally, the last song on this album, Pariah, track 11. Ugh, I don't have the strength. Sorry, I'll shut up. I'll play the song. I can't. I just can't do it, Robert Cooper.
Just do it already.
Just step away from the computer for a minute. We'll listen. You can go take a piss or something.
All right, fair enough. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go for a walk. So that little bit there that was at the beginning and then towards the end, I wanted to stop it and go, MTV News, din, 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 you hear it first.
Before you could have went like Black Sabbath 13. I've heard this before.
Black Sabbath 13, and now a medley of everything.
So my question, 13 or Super Collider?
Ooh, a shit sandwich or a giant deuce? The choices.
Well, I mean, I know which one I would pick, but I can see from your point of view it's an awful album or a boring album.
You know,
and a boring album.
Here's the thing, Robert, and I want to be very clear about this. I gave up listening to this album. I only got through it because I knew we had to do this podcast, and even still, Robert Cooper, do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? The only reason why I knew anything after track 4 was because I had to download this horse shit onto my computer to upload it to the podcast. Do you see what I'm saying? The only reason why I listened to any more of these songs is because I had to hear them on YouTube in order to get the sound clips. I at least made it to the end of Super Collider.
Well, true. You didn't listen to the whole album?
Technically, I listened to songs, parts of songs from the album.
Oh, that would explain your lackadaisicalness. You're just like,
yeah, exactly.
Song. Let's get on with it. Oh well, I can feel for you. Trust me, I've tried to write about shit that I didn't listen to. It's fun.
So I guess to answer your question quite simply, yes, I would prefer Super Collider.
Wow. Lord Almighty.
Do you realize that halfway through this podcast, I went on Spotify and deleted my playlist of this album?
No, I don't realize because I've been talking.
Touche. I at least had the decency to wait until the Super Collider podcast was over to delete it from my playlist. This one, I'm like, I don't need this horse shit anymore, and deleted it off of there.
Well, at least Super Collider, after we did that podcast and went down my rankings, I think this album's going to go down a little too because I do see the flaws in it, but man, I mean, come on, we've gotten through some bad albums on this. Actually, we haven't gotten through many bad albums on this podcast.
No.
But we've gotten through some mediocre songs.
Super Collider, as far as albums go that we've talked about, was by far the worst one. I mean, I can go back through the ones that we've done. We did Hatebreed, which maybe you struggled with it, but I was having a ball.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. That's jam.
You know,
I mean, I can go back and that
was time to
okay.
murder it. Don't you understand what I'm trying to tell you? We murdered it.
We did actually Hatebreed. It wasn't that hard to get through because it was kind of mindless fun. I just didn't. This is not my thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think the Tomahawk one we struggled with, but Tomahawk, it wasn't a bad album. That was more a case of it wasn't necessarily my wheelhouse, but you know, it wasn't a bad album. Super Collider was literally the first bad album we did, and then you stuck me with this Albatross. So
technically, you did not finish the album, so you can't necessarily say it was awful.
Exactly.
No. You gave up on Megadeth after World Needs a Hero, and then you got to Endgame. So you know, there's always a hope. There could have been a.
I assure you,
there
Robert.
Is Return to Hanger.
I assure you, Robert Cooper. I assure you, Sean Gomer. I insist. This album is terrible. Okay, I'm confident in my assessment that this album is not so good. Sean, your response
that's
to that?
you.
That hurts.
I disagree that it is a terrible album.
It hurts.
There are things to like here. You said it yourself. You had a few songs that you liked. Of the 2 minutes that you listened to it, you know, there are nuggets. There are nuggets in there that if you're a Sabbath fan, you really enjoy. The fact is, I think, quite frankly, this was made for Sabbath fans to understand that they can still do Sabbath, and you're going to enjoy them when you go out on the tour and have songs, new songs that they can bring in with the classics, and it won't miss a beat. And to me, that's what it is, and there's nothing wrong with that, and that's fine. And it doesn't have to be, oh my God, Black Sabbath just broke new ground for metal. They don't have to do that on their first comeback album with them all together in 35 years. I think that's a little bit way too asking a little bit too much.
I wasn't asking for them to break new ground. I was asking them to put out an album I could actually get through.
That's you, though. Me and Robert got through it. And I agree, it has flaws. Yeah, I got through it 3 times. I agree it has flaws. It's missing Bill Ward. There's things that, the order, as y'all mentioned, could have been done in a different way. Some of the the tracks that were added to the extended edition could have been in the. They could have just made this a 11-thing album. It didn't need to be extended edition. Period.
They didn't need that extra $7.
Yeah, it didn't. Yeah, it didn't need God. The God Is Dead song could have been taken out completely. And to me, that's the only song I don't like at all on the album. The other ones I can deal with, even the ones that are retreads of classics. Because at least they tried to do a little bit, even if it's a 2.0 version. To me, you know what? Maybe it's not a freaking 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, whatever, but hey, to me, at least a 6.5 or something.
So what I hear you saying is, so I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly and that you're being represented well on this podcast. Black Sabbath, at least they tried.
No, it's not that they at least they tried. Did we not say that they had to accomplish you said it had to answer 2 questions, right?
Yep.
That it didn't have to suck.
Right.
And did it accomplish what they set out to do? Yes, it accomplished what they set out to do.
Okay.
It accomplished everything that Rick Rubin wanted for them to do.
So in that sense, as far as you're concerned, it was a successful album.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
I mean, you can if you want to take the criteria, look at Saint Anger. Me and Mark need to do Saint Anger just to hear me seethe. But, the point of that album was for Metallica to get back and do something heavy and in your face and something a huge departure from what they did in the 90s. And it did succeed at that. But in my opinion, shit. Now, the second piece of criteria of was it good, was it pleasing to your ears, I guess that's more of a I guess in your eyes type of thing. Like me and Sean were like, this album was not Paranoid, it was not Sabotage, it was not Volume 4, it was not the original Black Sabbath, but at least it wasn't Technical Ecstasy. I never say that. It was in the classics. If this would have come out in 1970, blah, 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 this would probably be a kind of the middle of the road album. It is not a great Sabbath album. It is a good Sabbath album. At least to me, it was good. Now, that being said, a good Sabbath album holds up pretty decently now. I'd give it about 4 stars. I think in my ranking, it was pretty high, but after listening to this again and hearing what Mark had to say, which, some valid criticisms, I'd drop it a little in my rankings, but it still would probably end in my top 20 this year, which, not bad. It's, like I said, overall I liked it. I can see if you didn't like it, because, Mark did say he's not, like, a fan of the Doom and, like all of the slower stuff. And a lot of this album was more Doom-related. Some of the more, kind of uppity, happy things that we've listened to on here. And, that's cool. It's just the different styles.
You know what I like? You want to hear what I like?
Time to
Hey, Reed.
Oh, God. What is this? What is he doing? Mark, this is not metal, damn it. I'm going to throw a cat into this phone. Oh, my God. Why? Jesus.
Because I couldn't get to Richard.
Oh, my God. So I'm assuming this is your way of saying it was pretty much, that album was pretty much that song to you. That's what it came off as, slow and boring.
Let me explain it to you this way.
What are you doing? No. God damn it. Oh my God. What? Have we turned into a blaxploitation film? I was found the one from that beauty pageant. You remember the one from the beauty pageant where the girl played it on a trumpet and it was out of key the entire time?
Oh, my God.
I think we have officially broke Mark Radulich. We have done what Jeff Harris could not.
Wow.
Jeff has been trying for years to make Mark snap, and I think we have done it with an album that is not that awful.
Yeah, really. Super Cloud, it was worse.
I can get, you know what my mission should be? My mission should be in 2 weeks, come back and like, hey, Mark, I found a doom metal album that you're going to hate even more.
It's like we're not covering it.
No, he will. Nothing again. Well, next week is his pick anyways. Which is Children of Bodom.
Yes. Yeah, let's get on with this. I really wish, if I had known that towards the end of this I was going to get really slap happy and just start playing random songs, I would have loaded up a whole bunch of Don't Dream It's Over and whatever else I could think of. I would have put on. I should have kept on here Toy Soldiers by Martika. That would have been fantastic.
Oh, Lord.
No, why? This was not that damn UFC show. Forget what UFC show you used it for. But it's not that.
All right.
So, yeah, I remember that. I remember starting the podcast and like, what is happening? This is not Mark talking.
That's my goal. Is for people to listen to a podcast and go, what is happening here?
That's the Three Beards.
Yeah. Every Radulich and Broadcasting podcast should feel like you've been cornered in an alley. Now listen. So that was
Jesus, are you saying we are a gigantic group of rapists?
Wow.
Sean
Dahmer is never going to come back on this podcast again.
No, you see what's going to happen? Sean's going to have me in about an hour, and I am worse on Randall's podcast because I have no clue what I'm talking about when it comes to video games.
Good. Makes you excellent.
Yeah, he just rambles on about other things that doesn't have to do with video games at all.
Well, I mean, I do know what I'm talking about. It's just when it comes to video games, I have a very limited knowledge. So I can get us started on a topic, and then we're going to end up with Quantum Leap.
Oh, God.
Or Doctor Who.
I really wish I had looked.
Oh,
I really wish I had looked.
Doctor Who all day.
Then I will load up more music.
You need to load up emergency like emergency music in case Mark, in case you start to crack or something, just start putting on Time to Murder It.
There you go. All right. I'm gonna load up nothing but Faust and oh my God, I don't know if you guys know who not Faust, Feist, but
Feist, God.
Okay, so you know who Feist is, right? So she did that song that was popular for a minute called 1 2 3 4.
I remember it.
Okay, so maybe Sean knows this because he's got a kid. But the first year that my kid was around, we didn't do the Disney thing. We kind of, even though we live in Florida, we tried to put that off for as long as possible. And instead, we sort of broke her in. We broke her in easy with the Sprout Network. And Sprout got Caillou and Kipper and the Pajaminal.
Caillou is an asshole.
Angelina Ballerina.
Yeah. And so occasionally they would play a commercial, and it was Feist singing 1 2 3 4, but she had changed the lyrics specifically for that network. And she does it with a bunch of Sesame Street monsters. So it's her singing with a bunch of Sesame Street monsters and changing the lyrics, and I was obsessed with that for the longest time. 36-year-old man at the time. And I'm just running around going 1 2 3 4, monsters walking across the floor. Yeah, that's what I'm going to load up on.
Oh, my God.
Oh, no. I used to be scared shitless of the count as a child. Totally. That
really?
would show up on my screen, and I would go hide under the kitchen table.
American.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I used to do that all the time. 3, yeah. I mean, I'm cool now, I can watch plenty of scary shit. I can even listen to this album without cracking.
Well, Cooper, what can one say? You're a better man than I. All right.
We should do a top 5 worst albums of 2013 just for Mark's sake.
Oh, God, then Mark will just put this at number 1 for no reason whatsoever.
Well, he has reasons. I mean, I respect his choice to hate this album. I just don't agree with it.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody has a choice to dislike or like something. And by the way, where in Florida do you live? Because I live in Miami.
I used to live in Miami, and now I live in Tampa.
Okay.
How many old people do y'all have per young person? What's that ratio?
Well, he's closer to the old people than I am. I mean,
yeah, there's more Cubans and old people here than there is anything else.
See, around here, I just get douchebags. Douchebags and barbecue.
Hey, I could go for some barbecue right now.
I could go for some barbecue right now. Could also wish my passport worked.
Y'all should come up here to North Carolina then,
I was just up there in North Carolina.
Well, in Lexington. And not the Lexington barbecue, I like it more than the Eastern. Because, what people don't understand about barbecue in North Carolina is that it's really divided in half. You got the Western barbecue, which is not nearly as vinegar-based as the other one. Ours is more tomato-based. And up in, the Eastern, around the coast and stuff, that is much more vinegary than the Western stuff. And I live in the Western North Carolina, so that's what I like. Yep.
Okay.
Barbecue. Some barbecue knowledge.
Learn about barbecue.
But we don't have any lion tacos here that I know of. So.
Yeah, my lion taco fix has been put on hold because the place is moving to a different location. And speaking of moving to a different location, this has been the Metal Hammer of Doom podcast review of 13 by Black Sabbath, their latest album. I really don't have anything else more to say about this.
13. That's what Mark gives it out of 100.
That's about right. Sean Gomer, you being our guest here, where can we find any of what you write? Why don't you plug whatever you got going on?
Alrighty. Well, first of all, every Friday night to Saturday morning, the Games Top 5 comes on, and Robert Cooper is usually one of the contributors, so you can always find him there as well. This week we're going to be doing the ending of my series of games top of the decade with the games of the 2010s decade so far.
That's going to be a
so
bitch.
That was going to be quite interesting. Yes.
That's going to be a bitch.
That was going to be difficult.
Because I haven't played many games from this decade.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if I don't think I'm on anything else contributing wise. I also have the Wrestling to the Max podcast that I put inside the Games Top 5 that's posted over on dirtsheets.com, and you can also find it on Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, whatever. Listen to Gary and me every Tuesday morning reviewing Raw, NXT, and whatever topics we're discussing that week. This week we reviewed Destination X, the TNA Impact version, and talked about how to fix TNA and all their financial issues. So that should be fun. Aside from that, yeah.
Okay. Metal Hammer of Doom, Mr. Cooper. What do you got planned for this Monday?
Let's see. Hammer of Doom, like Sundays, early Mondays, that's when it comes out. Let's see. I don't have anything planned. I never actually have anything really planned for that thing. That's why it takes me. That's why I'm always late. Poor Jeremy. Everything I turn in is fucking late. I'm awful with time. Yeah, he actually, like, one day he's just like, you need to get it on this time. He's like, sorry if I'm complaining, my dude, you're not complaining. I need a little kick in the ass some days, but I have nothing really planned per se. Like, it just usually comes. But last week, I could talk about this week's news report because I kind of wrote that. Talked about, what did we talk about? We talked about the new releases for the week. A whole lot of sludge metal. There was a lot of sludge metal that came out this week.
You talked about Radiohead not liking Spotify.
See, Sean reads it. Hey, Mark, you should read my column, Mark. You totally should.
I do, occasionally, sometimes, once in a while.
Sometimes.
When I have a moment at work.
Oh, okay, good. When you're not listening to the Three Beards, which I'll plug in a second. But yeah, I did talk about, now I remember, I talked about Radiohead doing, Tom York of Radiohead came out against Spotify saying it was a really shitty avenue for new artists. And he did have a few good points, but I argued against that, saying that the exposure will outweigh the money that they're missing out on new CD sales immediately, because I mean, if people listen to it on
Who buys
Spotify,
CDs anymore anyway?
Yeah, I mean, looked at like Metallica, when they joined Spotify, their CD sales dropped like 35%, but I mean, yeah, just people don't buy CDs that much anyway, and I think usually a digital, something that's easy for people to get to, they're going to listen to that more than they will. They're going to listen to that more than they will through,
But I do wonder if, like, does used music sales work the same way as used game sales, or do they still get all the money from that?
No, I don't think they get the money from that, because how can you, really? Yeah, how are they going to get the music sale or the money from it? So I think it is just like used games. They don't really get any of the money from it, which sucks, because I buy most of my stuff used because I'm kind of, broke most of the time.
Exactly, that's what I do too, so that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, Hammer of the News Report. I was in the top 5 this week in the Music Zone, where we did top 5 bassists.
Did you win your Fact or Fiction? Did you win your last Fact or Fiction?
I crushed him because I felt really bad because he said that he disagreed with something. I think he said something about how something against the women's division.
That was right. That was that one where, like, everybody. That was the one where you took on Butterfield and everyone turned on him.
Everybody killed Butters, and I felt so bad because I wanted to say something, but then I'm like, I don't want to piss everybody off. It was actually funny. In one of the comments, he's like, he's just like, why are you trolling everybody? And somebody goes, well, nobody's trolled Coop yet, and I'm like, it's got a point. Nobody's trolled me. I felt really bad for Butters. Like,
that's not
everybody. Yeah, everybody just turned and lashed on him. I was like, I like to win, but I don't like to win like this. This is just not fair. But yeah, I'm on a 3-fight win streak, so that's good. I'm quite excited because I'm not an MMA writer, so I always feel like I have something to prove. But I was in say I did MMA Fact Fiction last week. This week was the top 5 in bassists, which like last week was drummers, this week was bassists, next week is guitarists because Jeremy said he's stealing Sean's idea of going like in some sort of theme.
Oh, Ben did this like when I first started contributing to the top 5, and he said he took it from there too.
We steal from it. We all steal from each other. What can we say?
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't think I'm in anything else because last week I was in something like every damn day. Yeah, I don't think I have. I might be jumping in on the top 5 for movies if I can remember to come up with a list in time because it's top 5 most hated comic movies. I think.
Ooh, I might get in on that one. I might get on that. Get in
the
on
wrestling
that one.
one's even pretty interesting this week too.
Oh yeah, top 5 desert island wrestlers because they stole that from the MMA zone, which was top 5 desert island. Which basically the concept is if you're on a desert island and you only have 5 wrestlers or fighters to watch, who would you watch? And actually, I think the question is infinitely more interesting with wrestling because you have to think of how long wrestling has been around, not to mention how long people's careers are in comparison to MMA. Because MMA, once you hit a certain age, so a lot of times you're out of it unless you're Randy Couture, and then you just have to get kicked in the face a whole bunch until you realize, maybe I should sit down. But that's all for my contributions for the week. But speaking of other things, the Three Beards podcast comes out every really late Sunday night, so technically early Monday morning. And this week we talked about the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman thing. But we kind of talked about it while Fletcher said he didn't really care about it, and then I made a few jokes about it, and then Kevin tried to get all serious about it. And nobody really cared that much. But we did that. I think we talked early Comic-Con stuff. This week we are going to talk Comic-Con because, Comic-Con's huge shit and some really cool stuff got announced, like, Man of Steel 2, as I like to call it. Batman's here, bitches. Yeah, it's Batman Superman movie. Pretty excited. And you should go to Facebook right now on facebook.com/3beards. We have a poll on what would make more money, which is going to make more money, the Justice League movie or the new Avengers movie. Yeah, Kevin's the only one that thinks that the Justice League movie is going to make more money. And he will argue you to the death about it. So you should go vote on that. Yeah, everybody go vote. But Three Beards Podcast, Mark describes us as blue. We are very uncensored. We're like a morning radio. Like, your everyday morning radio show, except we're uncensored, and we talk usually about kind of like geeky stuff, like sci-fi and comic books, and sometimes we get into politics, but we also talk about, beer. But I get left out on that, so I have Mountain Dew. But anyway, I think that is all for my rambling plug section. Now to the Radulich Broadcasting Network head, Mr. Mark Radulich.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Robert Cooper. All right. The Metal Hammer of Doom is one of the many shows on the Radulich Broadcasting Network that, once again, you can find on iTunes or Stitcher or blogtalkradio.com. You can also find select shows on Manic Expressions. Check out our movie podcast, Long Road to Ruin, where we deal in franchises with Sean Comer. The last show was Twilight, which featured my wife, Melissa Radulich. Yep, almost 3 hours of Twilight. Can you dig it, sucker?
She seems like just listening to that. I was like, Mark's wife seems like a very nice lady.
She is a very nice lady.
But still, poor Sean. I summed it up to pretty much your wife going, pretty much the way you said it would go was, okay, so your wife's like, yeah, the book was better. Sean's like, this is shitty. And then you're like, but it's got so many good things in it, I'm going to defend it.
Yeah, kind of like this podcast with Black Sabbath.
Yes.
Only you were playing the role of me.
Oh, God, I get to be Mark Radulich. I don't think I'm ready to be Mark Radulich.
You're not ready for this, Jelly. Now listen, a week from tonight...
Wow.
Jeremy Lambert will be joining us on the Long Road to Ruin as we tackle the Transformers trilogy. Michael Bay! Boom. If you go back a couple of weeks, we did Jurassic Park. We did The Man with No Name. We did the Superman franchise with Christopher Reeve. We have a lot of great shows. Long Road to Ruin is doing quite well. Go back and listen to the 3 weeks we did of Megadeth podcast. We did 2 retrospectives, and then as we talked about tonight, we did Super Collider. Jeffrey Harris and I do the 401 Summer Blockbuster series. We recently reviewed Pacific Rim, of which Robert Cooper was a guest on that show. We've also done The Lone Ranger, Monsters University, Man of Steel, and Iron Man 3. Go ahead and check out those podcasts. Those are doing quite well. And the villainous one, Robert Winfrey. has his very own podcast on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. Everybody Loves a Villain. They recently did Dracula, and before that was Vampires. I'm on a couple of those shows as well. And every Sunday night at 9. Yes, they are. Every Sunday night at 9 o'clock is the 411 Ground and Pound radio show. This week we previewed Mighty Mouse versus John Moraga, and I think we gave it more time than the UFC and Fox have recently.
I think you did, because I didn't even know that show was up next because nobody advertised it.
Yep. So in case you're interested in checking that show out, and gee whiz, with the card they've lined up, I don't see why you wouldn't. Starting at 4 o'clock on 401mania.com in the MMA section, I will be providing live coverage all night long. All night.
All night. See, nobody else would sing with you.
All night. 4 o'clock till whenever it's over, from Facebook to Fox, UFC on Fox 8, Mighty Mouse versus John Moraga. And lastly, check me out on thecasualheroes.com. I was on their movie cast where Jed and I argued vociferously about a IGN list of 25 action movies, and it really gets going when at like 14 or 15 they mention First Blood, at which point I completely lose my mind. Yeah.
What?
I won't give it away, but let's just say that somebody decided that somebody said that First Blood was the 14th or 15th like best action movie of all time, and it was under Speed. As in, Speed was a better movie. It was a better action movie than.
Wow, really?
Yeah, IGN have a lot of people don't like them for reasons.
Yeah, whoever devised that list needs to be dragged for miles behind a truck.
They need to be made to listen to Super Collider on a runner.
Yeah, or they need to be made. They need to listen to God Is Dead until they decide to test that theory themselves. Now listen.
Until they decide to try to meet their maker.
All right.
Oh, and we didn't get to plug next time.
I was just getting there. In 2 weeks, we will be back to albums that don't suck. We will be reviewing the new Children of Bodom album, because as we all know, the best metal can always be found in Europe. That is, of course, Halo of Blood. So we're going to go ahead and do that one 2 weeks from tonight, and then after that, we'll be back to Robert's pick again, and I believe we're doing the new Amon Amarth, correct?
Actually, I might change it because the new Orphan Land's really good, and it's on Spotify. So we might just do that, and maybe when you're gone in October, maybe I'll get somebody to help me, and we'll do Amon Amarth.
I'll be on here with you. It's fine.
There you go.
No, not Nightwish. You won't like
No, I'm not gonna stop. You already had to rub it in enough times already.
I mean, yeah, you could do Amon Amarth with me. I just think you'll be like, sound like a prayer.
All right, Sean Gomer, are you going to be back for more of these podcasts? Can we count on you to return?
If work allows. Usually I work from 9 to 11. I get off at 11. So.
Oh, okay.
You know, if you could make it like it'd have to come on the same time we did the Games podcast for me to be on. So it'd be one of these times like today where I'm off or I worked in the morning on a Tuesday, I could be on.
Okay. Well, the next time you work on a Tuesday, you let me know and we'll get you in here, okay?
All right.
All right. Yeah, so for Sean Gomer and for, of course, one of the three beards, Mr. Robert Cooper, this has been the Metal Hammer of Doom podcast. We will be back in 2 weeks. For the Christ's sakes, where the hell is my theme music? There we go. No, wait. God damn it.
You misplaced it with all your shenanigans.
I really did. There we go. All right, take two. So, for Sean Gomer. No. Just no. And Robert Cooper, for the love of God, be well, be safe, and behave.